Corporate staff at Starbucks will soon be required to commute to work one extra day per week. Currently, employees have to be in the office 3 days a week, but starting in the new fiscal year, that will move to 4 days a week. It applies to all of its North American regional offices and the company's support centers in Seattle and Toronto. Starbucks officials say the move will benefit the brand because employees' best work comes from working together. Employees who choose to leave due to schedule adjustments will be offered a one-time voluntary exit program. I like that phrase, voluntary exit program. So is this a trend that employers are shifting towards, and what does this reflect about the job market? Henry Goldbeck is the founder and president of Goldbeck Recruiting, and what do you think of what Starbucks is doing?
Well, it's interesting, Ian, that one more day a week in the office is a big deal. Which really shows you the seismic shift in work patterns since COVID, right? We went from everybody working at home to everybody who could working remotely to sort of gradually, mostly hybrid, some companies 100% at the office. So it is interesting that they are still figuring it out, even a couple of years later, even with all of the consultants and expertise they have. Companies everywhere are still figuring out what works best for them, for their employees, for their morale, for their productivity, etc. So I think that will continue for a while.
So give us a brief description of what your company does. You recruit workers for companies?
Absolutely. We recruit workers for companies. They come to us and give us a mandate of what position they need to fill. And they're usually hard to fill positions, or they do it themselves. And then we go and contact people, proactively speak to them about the position. In terms of remote work, when we have a client that says this position is 100% in the office, we always tell them first thing, this limits your candidate pool. Candidates really like hybrid work. They like flexibility. And so it is much more difficult to recruit for 100% in office than a hybrid situation.
And is this 100% a post-COVID, I mean, I know we still have COVID, but in terms of the lockdowns, a post-lockdown phenomenon, or did you see it before as well?
No, 100% post-COVID, post-lockdown.
Yeah.
Right? It never came up pre-COVID.
And again, you're in a unique position to give us some insight into this. I've heard stories of people who during lockdowns moved away from big cities, right? And so they, small maritime towns, interior British Columbia, and then all of a sudden, 2 years later, their bosses are saying, okay, time to come back. Are you running into that at all?
Well, we haven't seen it that much because we're dealing more with the employers and then finding candidates. But we do hear from candidates that if they are let go or have to come back, decide not to, really their options may be limited because 100% remote is still the smallest segment of the market. Hybrid is the largest segment. I would say in the office 5 days a week is smaller than 50%, but it's substantial and growing. And 100% remote is a fairly small segment of the market.
And so the people you have who are looking for jobs, who want to be at home 1 day or 2 days a week, do they tell you why? Do you have a sense of why they want to do that?
It's the commute. They have family. They're used to it. They like it. They're more productive. Some of them say, well, I'd rather work those 2 extra hours and get stuff done instead of commute. But I think they've come to appreciate that flexibility of not being in traffic 5 days a week and being able to have some work-life balance while still being productive, right? And so it can be tough for them when they see a job that is 5 days in the office and making that decision. And of course, we've gone from a real employees market like 2-3 years ago, gradually becoming a balanced and in some areas an employers market. So that means people's options will shrink. And so some people may be more forced to work in the office. And then they really need to ask themselves, what's most important to me? There could be a fantastic job offering the training, the upskilling, the career advancement, but it's 5 days in the office. So that might really be worth the trade-off versus a job that's not that interesting to them, et cetera, right?
So we have about 45 seconds left. I find it interesting that Starbucks is the reason we're doing this today, because Starbucks, their whole raison d'etre is, well, it's to sell coffee, but it's also to create that third place, right? And encourage people to come into their coffee shops and have work meetings and hang out with people. The importance of actually being face-to-face with people. Do you have any view on that? Like, is it better for us to be face-to-face?
There's no hard data that says that working in the office, it leads to more productivity than remote. So we don't know. And it's funny, on this topic, I was speaking to someone recently who told me about their first aid training, where they had to be told to resist the temptation to sit the patient up. Sitting the patient up made them feel better, but was really bad for the patient. So I think in some cases, remote work makes the managers feel better. We don't know if it leads to anything positive or not.
Yeah,
So
really interesting. We'll wait for the data. Henry, thank you very much.
my pleasure. Thank you.
Henry Goldbeck, founder and president of Goldbeck Recruiting.